Hello and welcome to another glorious art video on my glorious art channel, because that's all we are now. This video is actually brought to you by Arteza Art Supplies, because art supplies are great. So they sent me like 2 boxes worth of art supplies. One of them almost got lost in the mail. That was a pain, but now I have them. I'm gonna be playing with them for years to come. So let's go ahead and play with these boxes like cats. Focus, Echo. So first of all, they sent a set of premium real brush pens, water-based ink, blendable, non-toxic. I love real brush pens. I'm very excited to play with these. Not in this video though. So I did mention that I'm kind of into watercolors right now, which is weird because I normally don't like them at all. But they sent me a 36 color palette of premium watercolor pans. They're half pans, metal box, reusable paint when dried on palette. I actually already have stuff in mind for these. I'm very excited. And then on top of that, they sent this pack of 60 watercolors that are like the liquid tubes, I believe. Like, this is not one that I asked for. They were just like, you need better watercolors than what you have, so frick yeah. I've never had liquid watercolors before, so I'm very excited to compare these to the pans. We're gonna have such a good time, you guys. I've never had watercolors this nice before, to be tested in a future video. And then I also asked for a couple sketchbooks, which I know I shouldn't do because I have so many. I love small sketchbooks like this because they fill up very quickly, and I have a lot of sketchbooks to get through, so if I can go through them quickly, it's nicer. They're also red and black, which is very on brand. It's 118 pounds, 3.5 by 5.5 inches, 88 pages, acid-free heavyweight paper. And these ones come in a 2-pack, which is really nice. I love tiny sketchbooks so much. They also sent this 3-pack of watercolor. Yes, watercolor pads. And they sent 3, which is great because watercolor I go through really fast, actually. Like, surprisingly fast. I don't know why I'm so into watercolor right now, man. Makes no sense. Also being saved for a future video. Set that there. And then last but not least in the paper department, they sent a 2-pack of drawing sketchbooks. Someday, these are gonna be sketchbook tour videos, but not today. They sent a 12-pack of Fineliner pens, which is good because I go through these very quickly. They're also 0.4 millimeters, which is like my ideal line thickness. I use 0.5 mechanical pencils to draw. I'm a very fine line kind of girl. I like this a lot. I'm very happy with this boy. We're not gonna do that right now because the main art tool that I'm actually gonna be using today is this. It is a 60 color palette of acrylic paint. This is probably the most intense thing that they sent me. And this is what we're gonna play with today. Look at that color range. Like, look at that. That is a lot of freaking colors, my man. I'm just gonna set you right on top. There you go, my good friend. So here's the deal. Me and my roommates are gonna be starting some D&D campaigns later this summer, and my roommate thought it would be a good idea to paint some minifigurines. Minifigurines are these teeny tiny little playable characters, but because you make your own character in D&D, a lot of them come plain like this so that you can paint them yourself and customize them. D&D is a very creative game and I like it. Look at that freaking gnome. So small. So I figured I could go ahead and take advantage of the fact that I'm painting a bunch of minifigs and show you my process. I'm gonna be real, I have never painted a minifigurine in my entire life, so if I do it wrong, deal with it. I've decided whatever I do with these is fine because they're my toys. That's right, I call them toys. What you gonna do about it? So let's have a look at some of the blank minifigurines I've got. We have 2 female gnome druids, 2 Azamar wizards, a couple dragonborn paladins, an evil sorceress, a harpy, and a couple props from a witch's den. On the back of the boxes, they give you kind of like examples of how you can paint them. But if I'm gonna be real, I don't like a lot of them. They're kind of bad. Am I putting myself in a position of failure? Let's find out. Okay, so they sent a lot of colors in this box, and they're very neatly organized in these 5-color trays, which makes everything a lot easier. I decided to start with the desk that came from the Witch's Den props, because I was hoping that wood would be a little bit easier to paint. I picked 3 brown shades, and I started with the darkest color. My original hope was that I could coat the entire thing with the very dark brown, and then when I went over it with the lighter colors, it wouldn't get into the cracks. But later I realized it's probably better to actually start with your lightest color and then move into your darkest color. The second coat was this light orange brown. It was a little bit too orange, but whatever, the decision had already been made. I still ended up having to go back over it with the dark color. The angle I was filming this at was really difficult to work with, and I actually ended up painting a lot of it off screen, so I didn't end up saving any of the footage of me painting on the embellishments and stuff.
I did manage to find a more appropriate brown for this desk, and I feel like that saved it overall. But having learned from my mistakes, I fixed the camera angle and started working on my sorceress. The very first thing I decided to paint was actually her skin tone. The main color that I picked for this character was purple. Purple just seemed like a very fitting color for her. I'm not entirely sure why. In keeping with the purple theme, I gave her lavender, very light hair, and for the things that would be leather, I painted a very dark, desaturated, almost plum purple. Then I took some of the silver and I mixed it with water to make kind of like a silver wash, and I went back over her hair to just make it look a bit shiny, and then I used the rest of the silver to paint over some of the embellishments. I highlighted the skin a little bit to try and clear up her hairline mostly, and then I went back over and added a bunch of shadows to try and make it look a bit more detailed. And then one of the last things that I did for this character was to paint the ball on her staff silver. The ground that she was standing on was kind of an afterthought. I just kind of picked two brown colors at random and dabbed them on. Dab, dab, dab. Also, trying to paint a face at this size is incredibly difficult. It came out okay. I think it was fine for a first try. The last miniature that I filmed myself painting was actually the cauldron. I put a dime for scale. The main thing I wanted to do with the cauldron was to use all of the metallic paints that come in this paint set. So the very first thing that I did was actually a gold base coat, and the one non-metallic color that I used was a neon green, and that was for the soup. After the gold dried, I made like a bronze water wash and then painted over the entire thing to make it look kind of weathered. That way the majority of the darker metallic paint would kind of settle into the creases. I used the silver mixed with some water to go over some of the top of the bubbles to make it look a bit more shiny. And then I used a very bright gold color to cover some of the highlights. Initially, I tried to use the silver to cover the handle of the cauldron, but I ended up removing it because it just didn't work as well with the gold. And then I used 2 shades of brown for the leather that wraps around the handle. Now that I think about it, that's the one other color that I used that wasn't metallic. The very, very last thing I did was to just go over some of the dark shadows with a pure bronze. The main thing I wanted to try with the cauldron was to see how well all of the metallic paints work, and it seems like they worked just as well as any of the other metallic paints that I've tried, with the benefit of having a couple other colors that I've never seen before. All of these minifigurines took a very long time and a very large amount of focus to paint, so I'm probably going to do the rest of them off camera and just post them on Twitter as I finish them, but so far I am pretty content with how these ones came out. Once again, thank you to Arteza Art Supplies for sending me all of this fun stuff and sponsoring this video. I am very excited for all the videos that are going to come out of these. I already have like 4 in mind. Oh, my battery's dying. I gotta go. I'm gonna go try to fill up one of those sketchbooks in a week. You get 600 awesome points for making it all the way to the end of this video, and hopefully I will see you later. My dear good friend. Goodbye. Look at my fun sleeves. They're like floppy.